"Mom, they're yours now," she said, abandoning her 6 children with her 70-year-old mother before leaving. But she never expected that 5 years later, that cruel act would lead to an unbelievable miracle. Welcome to our channel, Grandma Stories. Today's story will definitely make you furious, but trust me, the ending will warm your heart. Please give us a like to support the grandmother and comment below what city you're watching from. Now let's begin. The slam of the door sounded like a final shot. Martha Peterson, 70 years old, stood frozen. Her 5-year-old daughter Sarah didn't even look back. "I have to live my own life. I can't be stuck here with these 6 kids anymore." "Sarah, wait," Martha called out desperately, but the taxi had already sped off. Behind her, in the cramped living room, 6 innocent pairs of eyes were watching. Noah, 10 years old, was trying to comfort the 2-year-old baby. "Grandma," 8-year-old Lily asked timidly, "where did Mommy go?" Martha looked at her 6 grandchildren, then down at the farewell letter on the table. She only had $50 to live on for the next 2 weeks, and now she had 7 mouths to feed. The 70-year-old grandmother's battle for survival began at that very moment. The children's crying brought her back to reality. She carefully folded the letter, tucking it into the pocket of her worn apron, and opened her arms. "Come here, my love." One by one, the children came to her. Martha wrapped them in a hug that seemed impossible for a woman of her age and size. But love has ways of multiplying when it's needed most. She pressed them against her chest, feeling their small bodies tremble with fear and confusion. "Are they going to separate us, Grandma?" Noah asked, and in his voice was a painful maturity, too heavy for his 10 years. Martha looked him straight in the eyes. Those brown eyes that were identical to his late father, Daniel, the good man who had died in a construction site accident 2.5 years ago. His death left Sarah a widow with 6 small children, as Grace had been born just before the accident, adding to her burden. "Nobody," Martha said with a firmness she didn't know she possessed, "is going to separate this family. Do you hear me? Nobody? You promise?" cried Chloe. "I swear on Almighty God," Martha made the sign of the cross. "I swear on my life, I swear on the soul of your Father who is watching over us from heaven." Noah nodded, wiping his tears with the back of his hand. He stood up a little straighter, squaring his thin shoulders. "I'm going to help you, Grandma. I can take care of my brothers and sisters." "I know, my sweet boy, I know." That night, Martha prepared dinner with the little she had in the pantry. Watery noodle soup, day-old bread, and some canned beans. The children ate in silence, occasionally glancing at the door, perhaps hoping their mother would appear and say it had all been a terrible mistake. But the door remained closed. After putting the little ones to bed, 3 in each room, packed in like sardines, Martha sat in the kitchen. The dim light of the single bulb revealed every crack in the walls, every water stain, every sign of time and poverty. She took out the letter again and reread it. "I'm looking for a better life," the words burned. "And these children, what about them? Didn't they deserve a better life too?" Martha closed her eyes. She was 70 years old. She should be resting, enjoying her final years in peace, but life, it seemed, had other plans. She heard a soft noise and opened her eyes. Noah was in the kitchen doorway with a sleeping Grace in his arms. "I couldn't sleep," he whispered. "You neither, Grandma?" Martha motioned for him to come closer. The boy sat next to her, gently rocking his little sister. "Noah, son, I need you to be strong, stronger than any 10-year-old boy should have to be." "I will be, Grandma. I promise. We're going to get through this," Martha said, more to convince herself than the boy. "I don't know how, but we will." Noah looked at her with those ancient eyes that had seen too much pain for his age. "I know, Grandma, because you're never going to leave us, right?" The question broke Martha's heart in two. She hugged him and Grace close. This family, fractured but not broken, damaged but not destroyed. "Never, my love, never." Outside, the night of Indianapolis roared with its millions of stories. But inside that small house, a new story was beginning. A story of sacrifice and love. A story that 5 years later would surprise everyone. But that night, Martha knew only one thing. Tomorrow she would have to find a way to put food in 6 hungry mouths. Outside, the night of Indianapolis roared with its millions of stories. But inside that small house, a new story was beginning. A story of sacrifice and love. A story that 5 years later would surprise everyone. But that night, Martha knew only one thing. Tomorrow, she would have to find a way to put food in 6 hungry mouths, and the day after tomorrow, and the day after that. She stood up, carrying Noah and Grace back to bed. She tucked them in with the threadbare blankets, kissed their foreheads, and whispered a prayer her own grandmother had taught her more than 60 years ago. Angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God's love commits me here, ever this day, be at my side to light and guard, to rule and guide. She closed the door softly and returned to the kitchen. On the table, a pile of unpaid bills. In her pocket, a letter of abandonment. In her heart, a love bigger than fear. What was she going to do now? The dawn came too soon, seeping through the faded curtains like a relentless thief. Martha hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Sarah's face. She heard the slam of the door. She felt the weight of 6 lives depending on her. She got up before the children, preparing breakfast with automatic movements. Watery oatmeal sweetened with a little brown sugar. There was no milk. She would have to buy some today, but that meant spending money she didn't have. Good morning, Grandma. Noah appeared in the kitchen, already dressed in his school uniform. His pants were too short, his shoes worn to the point of showing his toes. Good morning, my sweet boy. Did you wake up your siblings? Yes, Lily is helping Chloe and Grace get dressed. Ben and Sam are fighting over a toy. Martha sighed. Life went on even after a personal apocalypse. One by one, the children appeared. Lily with her long hair messily combed, leading Grace by the hand. Ben and Sam still grumbling at each other, Chloe with her eyes swollen from crying. They sat at the table looking at the oatmeal with expressions that mixed hunger and disappointment. They missed the breakfasts their mother used to make. Scrambled eggs, bacon, and toast, but those days were over. Is she coming back today? Sam asked with the cruel innocence of his 4 years. No, my love. Martha served the oatmeal onto chipped plates. Your mommy needs some time. How much time? Ben insisted. Martha had no answer. Instead, she served the oatmeal and urged them to eat quickly. School started in an hour. After breakfast came the chaos of getting 6 children ready to leave. Backpacks to find, notebooks to locate, faces to wash, teeth to brush. Martha moved as best she could, her knees protesting with every step, her back reminding her that she was 70, not 40. Finally, they went out onto the street. The Indianapolis neighborhood was waking up with its characteristic hustle and bustle. Street vendors shouted their offers. Radios blared music, the smell of hot dogs and coffee mixing with the exhaust from the city buses. Martha walked with the older children toward the elementary school, carrying Grace on her hip. Every block was an eternity, every step an effort. Grandma, Lily took her free hand. We're going to be okay? Martha squeezed that small, trusting hand. Yes, my love, we're going to be okay. But as she said the words, a terrible doubt gnawed at her heart. How? She dropped the children off at school, ignoring the curious glances of other parents, the whispered questions. News travels fast in neighborhoods. Everyone would already know that Sarah had left, leaving 6 children with her elderly mother. On the way home with Grace asleep in her arms, Martha stopped in front of the grocery store. She needed to buy food, but when she took out her wallet, reality hit her like a hammer. $50. That was all she had until her Social Security check arrived in 2 weeks. $50 to feed 7 people for 14 days. The world tilted. Martha leaned against a wall, hugging Grace tightly, feeling like she was suffocating. Mrs. Peterson, are you all right? The voice came from Mr. Walter Jenkins, her 78-year-old neighbor, a thin man with a white mustache and kind eyes who had lived alone since his wife Alina died 10 years ago. Mr. Jenkins? Martha tried to smile but failed miserably. I heard about Sarah, he said softly. That's unbelievable. How are the children? Scared, confused. Martha felt tears burning her eyes. And I don't know what to do, Mr. Jenkins. I don't know how I'm going to. Her voice broke. She couldn't finish the sentence because the truth was too terrifying to say out loud. Mr. Walter Jenkins smiled. Look, let me help you. At least for today, come on, let's go to the store together. Today's groceries are on me. I can't accept it. Of course you can, we're neighbors, practically family. He gestured with his hand. Come on, don't argue. These old bones need to feel useful. Martha wanted to protest, but pride was a luxury she could no longer afford. She nodded, swallowing her tears. As they walked toward the market, Mr. Jenkins telling stories to lighten the mood, Martha made a silent promise. She didn't know how, but she was going to get through this. She was going to raise these children. She was going to give them love, an education, a future. And if Sarah ever came back, she would find that the children she abandoned had blossomed in spite of everything. The sun rose over Indianapolis, illuminating the dusty streets of the neighborhood. And on those streets, a 70-year-old grandmother was beginning the most important battle of her life. A battle she would win because love, when it is true, always finds a way. 3 weeks after the abandonment, life had found a chaotic and exhausting rhythm, but a rhythm nonetheless. Martha would wake before dawn, prepare miraculous breakfasts with minimal ingredients. She dressed 6 children. She took them to school. She rushed back to sew clothes for others on her old Singer machine. She picked up the children, prepared meals, helped with homework, bathed little bodies, told stories, and collapsed into bed, only to repeat it all the next day. She had lost 10 pounds. Her hands bled from so much sewing, but the children were eating. That was what mattered. The children, for their part, adapted quickly. Noah, the 10-year-old, had become her right hand, her small but strong soldier. He watched the younger children, helped them with their shoes, and kept them quiet when Martha needed to concentrate on her sewing work. Lily, the 8-year-old, helped in the kitchen, washing dishes with a concentration that made Martha's heart swell. That Tuesday afternoon, while the children were doing homework at the dining room table, someone knocked on the door. Martha opened it to find a stranger, a woman of about 40 with a clipboard and a serious expression. Martha Peterson? Yes, that's me. I'm Miss Sanchez from Child Protective Services. May I come in? This is a grandmother's worst nightmare. After everything she's done to keep them together, the system itself is knocking at the door, threatening to tear them all apart. Martha's heart stopped. She had heard stories, CPS taking children, orphanages, separated families. What do you need? We received a report about 6 minors living with you without their parents present. I need to verify the living conditions. Martha felt the floor open up beneath her. With trembling legs, she let the woman in. Miss Sanchez walked through the house with critical eyes. The peeling paint, the old mattresses, the tiny kitchen, the mended clothes hanging on a line. She took notes, lots of notes. Every broken toy, every stain on the sofa, every sign of poverty was being meticulously recorded. The children watched from the dining room, terrified. Noah stood up, walking toward the social worker with a bravery that belied his age. Ma'am, he said in a clear voice, my grandma takes very good care of us. We eat every day. We go to school. She loves us. Miss Sanchez looked at the 10-year-old boy. She saw the determination in his eyes, the protective way he stood between her and his siblings. And your mother? She left, Noah answered simply. But we don't need her. We have grandma. Children need their parents. Children need someone who loves them, Noah corrected. And there was such ancient truth in his words that the social worker blinked. Martha found her voice. Please, she said, and she didn't care that it sounded like a plea. Don't separate them. They are all I have. I am all they have. I'll find a way. Mrs. Peterson. The social worker closed her clipboard. The conditions here are concerning. Your age, your limited resources. But I love them, Martha cried out, and 6 children ran to hug her. I love them more than their own mother did. I would give my life for each of them. Miss Sanchez watched them. This elderly grandmother surrounded by children clinging to her as if she were their only lifeboat in a stormy sea. Love is not enough, Miss Sanchez said, but her voice was less harsh. They need food, clothes, medical care, and they will have it. Martha straightened her aching back. I will work day and night if I have to. Ma'am, you are 70 years old, and I can still work, I can still love. I can still raise these children." A silence fell over the room. The social worker sighed. "I'm going to give you 3 months. 3 months to improve the conditions, better food, adequate clothing, evidence of a stable income. If in 3 months I don't see significant improvement—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. 3 months, Martha repeated. Thank you, thank you. The 3-month deadline set by Miss Sanchez was now etched into Martha's mind like a countdown to disaster. Every hour was a desperate race against time. After the social worker left, Martha felt a renewed surge of energy. Fear, when harnessed correctly, can be a powerful motivator. She knew sewing wouldn't be enough. It was exhausting work for minimal pay, and she needed a more stable, visible income to satisfy child protective services. She needed a legitimate business. The answer came from the children themselves. One cold Indianapolis morning, Lily spilled juice on her dress just before school. Martha, quickly but expertly, cleaned the stain and mended a small tear in the hem with such speed and precision that Lily exclaimed, "Grandma, you can fix anything." That was it. Fixing, mending, altering. Martha decided to open a small tailoring and repair shop in her own living room. The large, rickety dining table where the children did their homework became her main workbench. She put a handwritten sign in the window: "Grandma Martha's Mending and Alterations, Fast, Fair, and Family Run." The first few weeks were slow. People were hesitant to entrust their good clothes to a 70-year-old woman working out of her home. But Mr. Walter Jenkins, her kind neighbor, was her first customer, bringing in a coat that needed a new lining. He paid her triple the asking price and, more importantly, spread the word. Soon, the neighborhood started responding. Mothers brought in school uniforms. Older men brought in pants to be hemmed. Martha worked with a ferocious focus, her hands a blur of needle and thread. She worked while the children were at school and continued until midnight, powered by sheer will and lukewarm coffee. The children helped. Noah started handling customer service, greeting neighbors at the door and carefully writing down orders. Lily learned to sort the clothes and organize the buttons and threads. Even little Ben and Sam helped by retrieving the measuring tape or the scissors for their grandmother. The small house, once filled with the weight of despair, was now buzzing with activity, industry, and purpose. It was still cramped and poor, but now it was a workshop, a place of creation, not just survival. 2 months passed in a blur of stitches and laughter. Martha managed to save enough money to buy 2 things: a used but working refrigerator and a new set of bunk beds, which immediately freed up space in the children's rooms. The social worker had asked for significant improvement, and Martha was determined to deliver it. She also managed to buy more nutritious food, fresh vegetables, some meat, and plenty of milk. The children's energy and smiles were her greatest reward. One Saturday morning, the doorbell rang. Noah opened it and came back with a bewildered expression. "Grandma, it's a woman from a church. She says she has a donation for us." Martha was apprehensive. She didn't want charity, but she knew she couldn't refuse help if it meant securing the children's future. She went to the door and met Pastor Evelyn, a kind woman with a strong voice and a warm smile. "Mrs. Peterson," the pastor began, "I heard your story. The strength of your love is a sermon in itself. Our congregation wants to help you." "We're fine, thank you, Pastor," Martha said politely but with a firm tone. "I know you are strong," Pastor Evelyn countered gently, "but strength deserves support. We are not offering charity. We are offering a partnership. We need someone to make alterations for our choir robes and church uniforms. If you accept the job, it will be a major long-term contract." This was not charity. This was a job. A stable, significant contract that would be enough to meet the social worker's requirements. Martha's 70-year-old eyes filled with tears of gratitude. The weight on her chest finally began to lift. "I accept, Pastor," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I will not let you down." The church contract was the lifeline Martha desperately needed. It was a blessing delivered at the perfect moment. She invested her first earnings from the contract into a used commercial sewing machine, capable of handling the heavier fabrics of choir robes. This machine, placed in the corner of her now bustling living room, became the symbol of their resilience. The next 3 months were a period of focused, unrelenting work. The house, while still small and modest, was transformed. The smell of frying vegetables replaced the stale air of poverty. Lily and Noah helped their siblings with their homework, their grades improving as their stress lessened. Grace, now almost 3, spent her days helping by sorting the brightly colored threads. Martha was exhausted, but she was fulfilled. She was a business owner, a guardian, and most importantly, a fighter who was winning. When Miss Sanchez returned exactly 3 months later for the scheduled check-in, the social worker noticed the change immediately. The first thing she saw was the new sign on the door, Grandma Martha's Mending and Alterations. The second thing she saw was the children. They were dressed in clean, well-fitting clothes, many of them mended or altered by Martha herself. They were eating a healthy, home-cooked lunch, roast chicken and fresh vegetables. Their faces were cheerful, their eyes bright. Miss Sanchez was led through the house by Noah, who proudly showed her the new bunk beds and the organized system they had for chores. The social worker examined the sewing workshop. She saw the commercial machine and the pile of church robes waiting to be hemmed. "You have a business?" Miss Sanchez asked, genuinely surprised. "Yes, ma'am," Martha said, holding up a completed order ticket. "I have a contract with Pastor Evelyn's church. It's a long-term job, steady income." Miss Sanchez reviewed her notes from the previous visit concerning conditions, limited resources, unstable income. She compared them to what she saw now: cleanliness, adequate nourishment, stable income, loving environment. "Mrs. Peterson," Miss Sanchez said, putting away her clipboard, "I'm genuinely impressed. You have done the impossible." "I did it for them," Martha whispered, glancing at the 6 children who were huddled together but no longer afraid. "I am closing the case," Miss Sanchez announced. "I'm not only closing it, I am recommending the court grant you permanent guardianship. These children are thriving here, they are home." Tears streamed down Martha's face. The threat was gone. The family was safe. The fear of separation, the nightmare that had haunted her every waking moment, was finally over. She hugged Miss Sanchez, an act the social worker clearly did not expect. "Thank you," Martha sobbed. "Thank you for giving me the chance." Miss Sanchez smiled, a warm, professional smile. "No, Mrs. Peterson, thank you for reminding me what true family is." She left, leaving Martha and the children in a sudden, profound silence of relief. They had won the battle for their home, but the struggle was far from over. Years of hard work lay ahead, but now they faced it together, not as victims, but as Grandma Martha's family. With the threat from Child Protective Services removed, the small home business, Grandma Martha's Mending and Alterations, truly became the cornerstone of their new life. The court-granted permanent guardianship felt like a final seal of protection. But the years that followed were not easy. They were filled with the kind of sacrifices only a person driven by profound love can make. Martha spent nearly every moment working. Her daily routine was clockwork: early morning prayers, preparing breakfast, getting the 6 children to school, sewing nonstop until it was time for pickup, helping with homework, dinner, bedtime stories, and then back to the machine until her fingers ached and her eyelids drooped. The children, seeing their grandmother's immense struggle, grew up with a maturity far beyond their years. Noah excelled in school, driven by the belief that a good education was the only way to repay his grandmother. He was constantly checking on her, bringing her warm tea and massaging her shoulders. Lily essentially became a second mother to the younger ones, ensuring Grace was clean, Ben and Sam finished their chores, and Chloe didn't feel lonely. They never complained about their sparse meals or their hand-me-down clothes. They knew every button, every penny, and every moment of their grandmother's time was a gift earned through sheer grit. 5 years passed this way. 5 years of absolute silence from Sarah, their mother. She had vanished completely, never calling, never sending a letter, never inquiring about the 6 lives she had abandoned. For the children, the memory of their mother slowly faded, replaced by the constant, reliable presence of Grandma Martha. She was their sun, their moon, and their entire world. By the time Noah was 15, he had found a small, part-time job stocking shelves at the local corner store after school. He refused to keep the money for himself. "It's for the house, Grandma," he insisted, placing the crumpled bills on her workbench. "You can buy a better coat for Lily or get those tires fixed on the car." They owned a very old, barely running station wagon that was essential for errands and emergencies. Martha cried every time, not because of the money, but because of the goodness in his heart. "You should keep some for yourself, my love, for a movie or a treat." "I don't need anything, Grandma," Noah would say, hugging her tight. "I have everything I need right here." Meanwhile, Lily, now 13, showed an extraordinary talent. She loved music. She would sit by the window and sing softly while Martha worked, her voice clear, pure, and hauntingly beautiful. The other children would gather around her, mesmerized. Martha knew that Lily had a gift that deserved to be cultivated, but music lessons and instruments were a luxury far beyond their reach. It was one of the few times Martha felt the pang of poverty, the inability to provide opportunity. But fortune sometimes has its own rhythm. One late autumn afternoon, a strange coincidence occurred that would change their path forever. The strange coincidence began with a simple mishap. Martha had finished hemming a heavy burgundy velvet robe for Pastor Evelyn and placed it carefully on the rack. Just as she turned, Ben, chasing Sam through the narrow living room, accidentally bumped the rack. The heavy robe tumbled off, landing squarely on Martha's beloved old Singer sewing machine. The machine, already fragile from decades of use, let out a shuddering metallic groan and seized up. Martha stared at the broken machine, her breath catching in her throat. This machine was their livelihood, their future. Panic, cold and sharp, threatened to overwhelm her. The church robes had a deadline, and without the machine, she was back to square one, or worse, she would lose the contract. Noah, seeing his grandmother's distress, rushed over. "I'll fix it, Grandma. I'll take it to the repair shop first thing tomorrow." The next morning, Noah carefully transported the massive machine to the only industrial repair shop in their part of Indianapolis. The shop owner, a gruff but honest man named Mr. Finn, examined it carefully. "Son," Mr. Finn said, shaking his head, "this is a vintage Singer. The parts are nearly impossible to find, and honestly, the labor cost would be more than the machine is worth. It might be time to retire her." Noah's heart sank. He knew his grandmother had no money for a new machine. Dejected, he walked the long way home, dragging the heavy machine behind him on a small, rusty dolly. He took a shortcut through a less-used industrial alley, and that's where the miracle truly began. A brand new, modern, commercial-grade sewing machine, still in its original factory packaging, was sitting beside a massive dumpster, seemingly discarded. It was too pristine to be junk. Noah approached it cautiously. It looked like the kind of machine she used to dream of, one that could handle any fabric and run all day long without overheating. Attached to the box was a note written on a corporate letterhead. "To whomever finds this machine was delivered to the wrong address." The company that ordered it, Aero Textiles, refused delivery because the box had a small dent. "We cannot return it to the manufacturer. Instead of scrapping it, we hope someone in the community can use it. Enjoy the gift." Noah couldn't believe his luck. It felt like a direct answer to his grandmother's silent prayers. With a strength born of adrenaline and hope, he somehow managed to hoist the huge, heavy box onto his dolly. When he arrived home, sweaty and triumphant, Martha stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the sight of the gleaming new box. "Grandma," Noah exclaimed, his voice cracking with excitement. "Look, it's a miracle. We don't have to worry anymore." Martha fell to her knees, weeping not of fear but of profound gratitude. In 5 years, she had never asked God for anything material, only for the strength to survive. Now, on the day her only means of income broke, a perfect, powerful replacement was delivered directly to them. "This is from God, Noah," she said, pulling him into a tearful hug. "This is a sign He is watching us." This new machine didn't just save their business, it dramatically increased their capacity. Grandma Martha's mending and alterations was about to take off. The new commercial-grade sewing machine, which Noah found by the dumpster, was a game changer. It was fast, quiet, and robust, transforming Grandma Martha's mending and alterations from a struggling home operation into a truly professional service. Martha could now handle complex jobs that required heavy-duty stitching, doubling her output and significantly increasing her income. Her reputation grew far beyond the neighborhood. Pastor Evelyn proudly recommended Martha to other churches and community theaters, praising her skill and, more importantly, her impeccable character. People didn't just bring her clothes, they brought her their trust. But as the business thrived, a different kind of pressure began to build within the small house. Lily, now 13, spent all her free time singing. She would harmonize with the radio, invent melodies while doing chores, and her voice became the constant, beautiful soundtrack to their busy lives. One day, a new customer came to the shop. He was an elegantly dressed, older gentleman named Mr. Frederick Harrison, a retired music professor from the University of Indianapolis and a longtime member of Pastor Evelyn's church. He needed several complex alterations done to a collection of vintage performance suits. As Martha took his measurements, Lily was in the next room, unaware of the guest, quietly singing a difficult classical piece she had somehow learned from an old library CD. Mr. Harrison froze. He held up a hand, interrupting Martha. "Mrs. Peterson, who is that singing?" "Oh, that's just Lily," Martha said, a little embarrassed. "She sings all the time. She loves music." Mr. Harrison walked slowly to the archway and stood watching the girl, completely absorbed in her voice. When Lily finished the phrase, he applauded softly. Lily jumped, startled. She looked at her grandmother, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "Young lady," Mr. Harrison said, his voice filled with professional awe, "do you know you have an incredibly rare gift?" Lily shrugged shyly. "I just like to sing, sir. You have perfect pitch, a natural vibrato, and a range that is phenomenal for your age," he stated. "You, my dear, are a star waiting to be discovered." Martha's heart hammered in her chest. A star. She knew Lily was talented, but to hear it from a professional like Mr. Harrison? "She can't afford lessons, Mr. Harrison," Martha confessed, the old pain of poverty returning. "We are just getting by." Mr. Harrison looked at Martha, then at Lily's hopeful eyes, and a decision was made instantly. He had lost his own family years ago and had spent his retirement feeling a profound emptiness. "Mrs. Peterson," he said, handing her his card, "the university needs a new tailor for their entire music department's costumes. If you can handle the contract, I will personally guarantee it. And in exchange, I will teach Lily for free. Private, one-on-one lessons, it would be my honor." Martha looked at the card, then at Lily, whose face was radiant with a joy she had never seen before. A new, bigger miracle was unfolding, woven not with thread, but with music. The partnership with Mr. Frederick Harrison marked a monumental shift in the family's destiny. Martha gained a substantial, reliable contract tailoring costumes for the University of Indianapolis Music Department, solidifying the financial stability of Grandma Martha's mending and alterations. And Lily gained a world-class mentor. Mr. Harrison started Lily's private lessons immediately. Twice a week, he would arrive at the modest little house, transform the small dining room into a music studio, and begin training the young talent. He taught her technique, breath control, musical theory, and the history of opera and classical song. Lily was a sponge. She soaked up every lesson, her natural gift blossoming under professional guidance. Her shyness began to melt away, replaced by the quiet confidence of someone who knows they have a purpose. Martha, meanwhile, had more work than ever before, but it was good work, respected work, and it paid well. She was even able to hire a neighborhood teenager, Maria, for a few hours a week to help with basic mending and errands, easing the physical burden on her 75-year-old body. The other children, seeing Lily's success, were inspired. Noah, now 15, took his job at the corner store more seriously than ever, saving every penny. He started looking into community college courses in business management, wanting to one day help his grandmother expand the tailoring business. Chloe, now 13, found a passion for drawing and design, sketching new ideas for costumes and outfits. Ben and Sam were inseparable, focusing on sports and keeping up their grades. The little house was no longer defined by what it lacked, but by the relentless, beautiful energy of 6 gifted, striving children and their rock of a grandmother. One day, after about a year of intensive lessons, Mr. Harrison sat down with Martha on the front porch. "Martha," he said, using her first name, something he did only when discussing serious matters. "Lily is ready. She has surpassed every student I have ever had. It's time for her to go public." Martha's hands, perpetually busy with mending a shirt, stilled. "Public? What do you mean, Mr. Harrison?" "She needs exposure. She needs a stage," he explained. "There is a national talent competition, The Voice of Tomorrow. It's televised and attracts the best young artists in the country. If she performs well, it will change her life, and honestly, it might change all of your lives." The thought of Lily on a huge, televised stage was terrifying to Martha. It was a different world, far from their safe, humble home. "Is it safe?" Martha asked, her only priority showing in her voice. "Will she be hurt?" "I will be with her every step of the way, Martha. I will protect her like my own granddaughter," Mr. Harrison promised. "But we cannot deny this gift. It would be a crime against music." Martha looked inside. She saw Lily laughing with Noah over a sheet of music. She was no longer the shy, scared 8-year-old. She was ready. "We'll do it," Martha declared, her voice firm. "But we do it together, all 7 of us." The preparation for the Voice of Tomorrow competition consumed the next 2 months. The small Indianapolis house became a mission control center. Mr. Harrison fine-tuned Lily's voice, focusing on a powerful operatic aria that would showcase her astonishing range and control. Noah researched the competition, creating spreadsheets of past winners and judges' preferences. Chloe designed the outfit Lily would wear, a simple but elegant dress Martha would tailor herself. Ben and Sam were in charge of morale, making sure everyone remembered to laugh and take breaks. The biggest challenge was the expense. The initial audition required a trip to Chicago for an in-person performance, and the family had to rent a van large enough for all 7 of them, plus Mr. Harrison. Martha used all the savings from the church and university contracts, an act of faith that was both terrifying and exhilarating. When the day finally arrived, the atmosphere in the van was a mixture of nervous excitement and familial solidarity. Martha sat next to Lily, holding her hand the entire way. "You don't have to be nervous, my love," Martha whispered. "You are just singing for us like you do at home." "But what if they don't like my voice, Grandma?" Lily's hand was cold in hers. "Then they don't know music," Martha said firmly. "Your gift is from God, Lily. You just need to share it. The rest is noise." The Chicago auditorium was massive, overwhelming. The lights, the cameras, the hushed intensity of the stage managers, it was all a world away from their tiny living room. Lily suddenly felt very small and very out of place. Then they called her name, Lily Peterson. She walked onto the stage. The bright lights blinded her, and the silence of the waiting audience was deafening. She looked out, trying to find her family, but all she saw was a terrifying darkness. She looked to the side of the stage and saw Mr. Harrison giving her a reassuring nod, but that didn't stop her legs from shaking. Her mind went blank. She couldn't remember the first note of the aria. Just as panic was about to steal her voice, she heard a faint, familiar sound. From the audience, a single voice, Noah's, started singing the melody of the prayer Martha had whispered to him the night their mother left. "Angel of God, my guardian dear." It was immediately followed by Lily, Chloe, Ben, and Sam's voices, singing the simple, beautiful prayer in perfect harmony, a soft, guiding chorus. They had practiced it in the van, a secret weapon against fear. Lily closed her eyes. She felt the warmth of her family, the strength of her grandmother's love, the history of their shared struggle. She opened her eyes, not looking at the judges, but at the dark place where she knew her family was. She took a deep breath, centered her focus, and launched into the first, soaring note of the aria. Her voice was liquid gold. It was powerful, emotional, and flawless. The judges, who had been leaning back in boredom, immediately sat up straight. The audience was stunned into silence. It wasn't just a perfect performance. It was a soul-bearing expression of a lifetime of pain and love. When the final note faded, the silence held for a moment and then the applause exploded. The judges were on their feet. Lily Peterson had not just auditioned, she had conquered. She qualified for the televised national rounds. Their dream, which had started as a whisper in a humble Indianapolis kitchen, was now shouting on a national stage. The phone call came 2 days after the Chicago audition. Lily had been officially selected to compete in the national rounds of The Voice of Tomorrow, which would be filmed in New York City. The excitement in the small house was explosive. The children screamed, Mr. Harrison beamed, and Martha simply sat down, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the opportunity. This was no longer a local talent show, it was a national broadcast. It meant television cameras, interviews, and crucially, a spotlight on their family story. The producers had been captivated not just by Lily's voice, but by the tale of the 75-year-old grandmother, the 6 children, the abandoned singer machine, and the unwavering love that held them together. They realized they had found a story of hope the whole country needed to hear. The show offered to cover their travel and accommodation, a massive relief to Martha. Still, the preparation was intense. Mr. Harrison flew in twice a week, preparing Lily not just musically, but for the psychological pressure of celebrity. He worked with her on stage presence, how to handle critique, and the importance of remaining true to herself. Martha, meanwhile, focused on the rest of the family. The other children were excited but also anxious about the disruption. Noah, ever the protector, worried about the sudden fame. "Grandma," he said one evening, "when you become famous, everyone knows your business. What if Mom finds out? What if she comes back?" Martha paused her sewing, her eyes holding the thread of worry Noah had just named. 5 years of silence had been a kind of peace. The spotlight could change that. "She gave up her right to be our mother 5 years ago, Noah," Martha said gently but firmly. "If she comes back now, it will be because of the light on Lily, not because of love for you all. We will deal with it if it happens. But we will not let the fear of what might happen stop us from celebrating what is happening." She made a quiet, personal decision. She would be the family's shield. She would manage all media inquiries, ensuring the focus remained on Lily's talent and the family's unity, not the sensationalism of the abandonment. The day they left for New York was emotional. Mr. Walter Jenkins and Pastor Evelyn came to see them off, offering blessings and provisions for the long trip. The family traveled together in a comfortable van provided by the show's producers. New York City was a breathtaking, terrifying maze of light and noise. It was 1,000,000 miles away from Indianapolis. The children, wide-eyed, clung to Martha and Noah. The first televised round was a blur. Lily performed a beautiful folk song arranged by Mr. Harrison. Her delivery was flawless, and her family's presence in the front row, a quiet, cohesive unit led by the sweet-faced, dignified grandmother, created an immediate emotional connection with the audience. The judges loved her, the audience voted her through. Lily Peterson was a national phenomenon overnight. The producers immediately pounced, scheduling interviews. They wanted the full, tear-jerking story. During one of the first interviews, a reporter asked Martha a question that chilled her to the bone. "Mrs. Peterson, we know your daughter abandoned these children. Have you heard anything from her since Lily became famous?" Martha looked directly into the camera, her 75-year-old face a mask of weary determination. "My answer to that is simple," she said, her voice carrying the quiet authority of a lifetime of sacrifice. "The mother of these children chose to walk away from them 5 years ago. Since that day, my grandchildren have had one parent, me. My job is to protect them and give them a future. Lily is singing for her future and for the future of her siblings. That is the only story that matters." Her words, broadcast across the country, served 2 purposes. They protected her family's privacy and cemented the public's respect for Grandma Martha. She had drawn a clear line in the sand. The national attention brought a barrage of public response, most of it overwhelmingly positive. Grandma Martha became a national symbol of resilience, and Lily was heralded as a classical music prodigy. Letters, gifts, and donations poured into the production office, all addressed to the family from Indianapolis. One afternoon, during a break in rehearsals, Mr. Harrison pulled Martha aside, a concerned look on his face. "Martha," he said quietly, "I have to show you something. I was on the show's main message board and someone posted a very disturbing comment." He handed her his phone. The post was short, venomous, and clearly written by someone who knew the family's past intimately. "All this praise is a joke. Martha is a great actress. She only took those kids because she was afraid of being lonely. She always resented her daughter and she's just using Lily's voice for money. Ask her where she got the $500 to hire that expensive music professor. They're all frauds." Martha's hands trembled as she read the words. It felt like a punch to the gut. The claim about using Lily for money hurt the most, but the mention of Mr. Harrison's cost and her acting fear of loneliness were too specific. It had to be someone close, someone with deep-seated malice. "It's not true, Grandma." Lily, who had come over, read the comment and burst into tears. "I would never let anyone use me." Martha quickly hugged her. "Hush, my love, I know you wouldn't. This is just venom. People are jealous of your light." "Who would write this, Martha?" Mr. Harrison asked, his face tight with anger. Martha looked away, her mind racing. Who could it be? The abandonment had been private. The initial struggle was only known to her immediate neighbors and the social worker. She thought of Sarah, her daughter. She thought of the depth of her daughter's selfishness. Could she be so cruel as to try and sabotage her own child? She didn't want to believe it, but the suspicion was planted. The incident, however, served as a stark reminder of their vulnerability. Martha doubled down on her resolve to protect her family. She instructed Noah and the younger siblings to avoid looking at any media or social platforms. As the competition intensified, Lily's performances grew even more spectacular. She wasn't just singing. She was telling their story through music. The judges and the audience saw the depth of the sacrifice and love behind her voice. In a segment leading up to the semifinals, the show surprised the family. They flew in Mr. Walter Jenkins and Pastor Evelyn from Indianapolis. Their appearance solidified the family's narrative of community support and genuine struggle. Mr. Jenkins, with his gentle, grandfatherly presence, spoke about Martha's first day after Sarah left and how she immediately took action, showing her strength. Pastor Evelyn spoke about the church contract and the miraculous finding of the new sewing machine. "Martha Peterson is a saint," Pastor Evelyn told the camera, tears in her eyes. "She is the purest example of a mother's love I have ever seen, and she did it all for those children without ever asking for a dime of charity." This segment completely countered the anonymous smear, washing away the doubt. The love and authenticity shone through the television screens, turning any remaining skeptics into avid fans. Lily sailed through the semifinals, performing a heartbreaking ballad that brought the judges to tears. She was now one of the final 3 contestants. She had one more performance to deliver, the grand finale. On the night before the final, Martha found a small, unmarked envelope slipped under their hotel room door. Inside was a crisp, new photo of Sarah. On the back, written in familiar handwriting, was a message. "Tell Lily to step down. This whole thing is a disgrace. You and the children are coming home now. I am your mother and I demand it." The threat was now undeniable. Sarah was watching. She was close. The discovery of the note and the image of Sarah sent a current of dread through Martha. It was one thing to fight poverty, but it was another to fight the deeply personal malice of her own child. She immediately shared the note with Mr. Harrison, who was appalled. "We need to contact the police, Martha. This is harassment and a veiled threat," he urged. "No," Martha insisted, her voice quiet but unyielding. "Not yet. The police will bring media and the media will distract Lily. Her performance tomorrow is everything. I will not let Sarah's poison touch this stage." Martha spent the rest of the day fortifying her family. She sat them down and spoke honestly, without fear. She explained that their mother was watching and might try to reach out, but that their focus must remain on Lily. "We are a unit," Martha told them, holding hands around the small hotel table. "Sarah may be biologically related, but this family, us, we were built by choice, by sacrifice, and by love. She cannot break us." Not now, not ever. Noah tightened his grip on his grandmother's hand. He was 16 now, tall and strong, and he felt a burning need to protect her. If she shows up, Grandma, I'll deal with her. You will stay right here with your siblings, my love, Martha corrected softly. I will handle her. I have handled everything else, and this is no different. That night, Lily did not practice music. Instead, Martha helped her put aside the fear, reminding her of the small, cramped living room in Indianapolis, the broken sewing machine, and the moment Noah sang the guardian angel prayer. She grounded Lily in the reality of their love, not the fear of their past. The day of the grand finale dawned, bright and electric with anticipation. Millions of people were watching. Lily's final song was to be a challenging piece, a selection from an English-language opera that required both incredible technical skill and profound emotional depth. As Lily was preparing backstage, the impossible happened. A woman with dark glasses and a scarf wrapped tightly around her head slipped past security and walked straight toward Martha, who was seated in the family waiting area. "Hello, Mom," Sarah said, her voice low and husky. 5 years had changed her. She looked tired, perhaps even a bit harder, but her arrogance was intact. Martha stared at her daughter, her heart sinking but her expression hardening into stone. "You shouldn't be here, Sarah. Don't be ridiculous. This is my daughter, my family. I'm here to watch my girl win," Sarah sneered, glancing toward the stage entrance. "And after she wins, she needs to come home with me. I've missed them, Mom. I'm ready to be a mother again." "A mother?" Martha stood up, her 75-year-old frame radiating quiet power. "A mother is someone who stays when the milk runs out. A mother is someone who sews until her fingers bleed to keep a roof over their heads. A mother doesn't send threats and insults from the darkness. You are not their mother, Sarah. You are just a guest of my success." Sarah's face flushed with anger. "This is my success. She got her voice from me. And that money, that fame, it belongs to me. I'll take her, Mom. I have my rights." "You lost your rights 5 years ago," Martha stated, pulling a document from her purse. It was the court order granting her permanent guardianship. "Miss Sanchez saw what kind of parent you were. You are legally a stranger to these children. If you come any closer, or if you cause any scene that interferes with Lily's performance, I will call security, and they will call the police. You are harassing a minor, Sarah. Leave now." The sight of the legal document and the sheer, unshakable confidence in her mother's eyes stopped Sarah cold. All the years of resentment and selfishness had led to this moment. Facing the consequences of her abandonment, her attempt at a dramatic reunion was crushed under the weight of her mother's love and legal authority. Sarah let out a defeated, bitter gasp. She looked at the door to the stage, realizing her last chance at reclaiming her children and their potential fame had vanished. She turned on her heel and disappeared back the way she came, vanishing into the theater's maze of corridors, leaving behind only the cold echo of her selfishness. Martha took a shuddering breath. The final obstacle was gone. She turned to the stage where Lily's introduction was just beginning. It was time for the music. The stage manager gave the final signal. The music started. Lily Peterson walked out onto the colossal stage, the audience a silent, waiting mass before her. But the noise in her head was gone, replaced by the memory of her grandmother's fierce love. She was not singing for fame. She was singing for the quiet, cramped room in Indianapolis, for the threadbare blankets, for the smell of old coffee and fresh laundry, for the sound of a hardworking sewing machine. Her performance was transcendent. The opera selection she sang was technically demanding, but she navigated the complex vocal acrobatics with grace and power. More than that, her interpretation was raw and deeply felt. The judges, who had seen countless talented young performers, watched in stunned silence. Lily sang about sacrifice, about enduring hardship, and about the transformative power of unconditional love. When she hit the final, soaring high note, a wave of emotion washed over the entire theater. The audience rose to their feet in a thunderous, continuous standing ovation that lasted several minutes. The judges, visibly moved, struggled to compose themselves for their comments. "Lily," one judge began, his voice thick with emotion, "you are not just a performer, you are an inspiration. Your voice is a gift, but your spirit, the the spirit of your family is a miracle. You sang tonight with a history that few people your age can comprehend. You are absolutely world-class." Another judge, a renowned opera diva, simply said, "In all my years, I have never seen such a perfect combination of technique and soul. You have honored your grandmother, your siblings, and every single person who has ever struggled to keep a dream alive." After the judge's comments, the moment of truth arrived. The results. The host stepped forward holding the sealed envelope. The entire auditorium held its breath. Backstage, Martha stood with Noah, Chloe, Ben, Sam, and Grace, their hands clasped so tightly their knuckles were white. And the winner of this year's The Voice of Tomorrow, with the highest votes in the history of the competition, the host paused for dramatic effect, is Lily Peterson. A deafening roar erupted. Confetti rained down from the ceiling. Lily collapsed onto the stage, overwhelmed, and then, looking up, she saw her family rushing toward her. Martha was the first to reach her. She didn't say anything, she just wrapped her arms around Lily and held her tight, a profound silence of love in the midst of the chaos. The camera focused on this hug, the 75-year-old grandmother, the 13-year-old singing star, the siblings surrounding them, a perfect picture of victory and family. The prize was substantial. A recording contract, a national tour, and a significant cash prize meant for scholarships and family support. Their lives were irreversibly changed, not by luck, but by 5 years of relentless hard work, integrity, and love. Later, away from the immediate cameras as the family celebrated in their hotel suite, Lily looked at Martha, her eyes still shining with happy tears. "Grandma," she said, her voice soft, Are we rich now?" Martha smiled, a beautiful, weary smile that had earned every wrinkle. She looked at her 6 children, all safe, all together, all thriving, all loved. "Grandma," Lily asked again, her voice full of wonder, Are we rich now?" Martha looked around the lavish hotel suite, then back at her 6 children, Noah, Lily, Chloe, Ben, Sam, and Grace, all safe, all together, all thriving, all loved. "We are, my love," Martha said, a beautiful, weary smile that had earned every wrinkle lighting up her face. "But not because of the money. We were rich the moment we chose to stay together 5 years ago. Now we are simply secure." The cash prize from The Voice of Tomorrow was immediately put to use with Noah's assistance. He, now a young man with a clear business head, insisted they hire a professional financial advisor recommended by Mr. Harrison. The priority was creating a permanent, stable foundation for the family. First, they bought a new house in a quieter, safer part of Indianapolis. It wasn't a mansion, but it was spacious, with a room for everyone, a proper yard, and a large, dedicated workshop space for Grandma Martha's mending and alterations. The old Singer machine, now repaired, was given a place of honor, next to the powerful new commercial one. The family moved out of the cramped, tiny house that had been the stage for so much struggle, but not before Martha hosted one final, quiet dinner there. They all said goodbye to the peeling paint, the worn floors, and the memories of fear, replacing them with gratitude for the lessons learned there. The recording contract meant Lily's life changed dramatically. She was now a rising star, splitting her time between high school recording sessions and occasional concerts. Martha became her full-time chaperone, manager in all but name, and constant grounding force. She insisted that Lily's education remain paramount. The biggest and most symbolic change was what they did with the children's education. Every child, from Noah down to Grace, was enrolled in the best schools and programs tailored to their specific talents. Noah was given a full scholarship to a prestigious local business academy. Lily received specialized music tutoring. Chloe was enrolled in a fine arts design class. Ben and Sam joined competitive soccer leagues. And Grace finally received all the gentle attention and structured play a young child deserved. This wasn't just about money, it was about fulfilling the potential that their mother had tried to stifle. It was about proving that abandonment does not define destiny. The story became a national phenomenon not just for the music, but for the moral of Martha's guardianship. People often asked Martha why she had sacrificed so much, her retirement, her comfort, her peace for her daughter's children. She had one constant answer which she shared in a final emotional interview. "It was never a sacrifice," Martha told the camera, holding Grace on her lap and looking at her 5 other grandchildren gathered around her. "It was simply love. You do not abandon those you love. And if you are lucky enough to be loved, you can conquer anything. I am the luckiest woman in the world because these children chose me as their mother, and I chose them as my whole life." Her words resonated, turning the whole story from a sad tale of abandonment into an enduring legend of family strength. 2 years after Lily's victory, life had settled into a new, elevated routine. The family was deeply rooted in their new home. Martha still ran Grandma Martha's Mending and Alterations, now a local institution with several employees, primarily to maintain her sense of purpose and to continue working with Pastor Evelyn and Mr. Harrison's university, contracts she would never relinquish. Lily, now 15, was balancing a demanding schedule that included high school honors classes and the preparation for her first major concert tour, which was already selling out arenas. She was a genuine, humble star. Noah, 18, had finished his business academy courses and, with an entrepreneurial spirit inherited from his grandmother, had opened a small, successful student tutoring service in their community. He handled the family's expanding finances with an accountant's precision and a big brother's care. He was preparing to apply to top-tier universities. The children were thriving, their futures secured by Martha's foresight and Lily's talent. Yet despite the triumph, Martha still carried one deep, lingering sorrow: the relationship with her own daughter, Sarah. The confrontation in New York had been brutal, but it had offered no closure. Sarah had vanished again, seemingly defeated but perhaps not truly gone. One quiet Tuesday afternoon, while Martha was supervising the new sewing employees, Mr. Harrison arrived, looking unusually serious. He was carrying a small, worn wooden box. "Martha," he said, handing her the box, "I found this at a yard sale today near the old neighborhood. I had a feeling you should have it." The box was vintage, intricately carved, and inside, nestled on a bed of old velvet, was a collection of yellowed photographs. Martha recognized the photos instantly. They were pictures of her when she was young and pictures of Sarah as a baby and a child, moments Martha thought she had lost forever when Sarah had left. As she looked through them, a wave of bittersweet nostalgia washed over her. She saw Sarah's bright, innocent eyes, so similar to Lily's now. She saw the happy memories, birthday parties, school plays, simple vacations, memories that had been poisoned by the subsequent years. Beneath the photographs, Martha found a folded, fragile piece of paper. It was a letter, but it was not from Sarah. It was from Eleanor Jenkins, Mr. Walter Jenkins's late wife. The letter was dated almost 20 years earlier, written shortly after Sarah had run away from home the first time in her turbulent youth. Martha read the letter, and the true, devastating secret of her family's past began to unfold. Martha's hands, which had mended 1,000 garments and rocked 6 children to sleep countless nights, trembled as she unfolded the fragile, yellowed paper. This was not a letter from the past. It was a ghost from the very moment of her nightmare. The handwriting, delicate and familiar, belonged to Eleanor Jenkins, the woman who had died quietly in her sleep 5 years earlier. "Dear Martha," the letter began, written in a shaky script that spoke of Eleanor's final illness. "If you are reading this, I am gone, and the weight of a promise I made to your daughter rests on my soul. I debated burning this, but you deserve to know the truth." Martha leaned against the workbench, the hum of the sewing machines fading into a distant buzz. The letter was dated 2 weeks before Sarah abandoned the children. Eleanor wrote that Sarah had come to her late one night, not with the usual anger or arrogance, but broken and utterly defeated. Sarah was not running away from responsibility for a party or a quick trip. She was fleeing the life she felt was suffocating her, overwhelmed by the poverty and the constant, relentless need of 6 small children. "She told me she was going to leave, Martha. For good this time," Eleanor's words pierced Martha's heart. "She said she couldn't breathe. She hated the constant hunger, the bills, the lack of freedom. She confessed she felt she was going mad from the noise and the need." She said she was a terrible mother, but she was too cowardly to end her own life, so she had to end her life as a mother instead. This explained the sudden finality of the note Sarah had left. It wasn't impulse. It was calculated desperation. Then came the truly devastating secret, the detail that complicated the narrative of cold selfishness. She made me swear on my mother's grave that I wouldn't tell you she was leaving. But then she cried, Martha, real tears. She said she was terrified you couldn't handle 6 kids alone, that you were too old and too kind. And she made me promise one thing. If you, Martha, if you ever failed them, if you ran out of food, if the heat went out in the winter, if the social worker came and things were bad, she begged me to call Child Protective Services immediately. She said, I can't call them myself, Alina. I'm too ashamed to admit I failed, but I can't let them starve because of me. It was the only act of love I saw from her in months, wrapped up in the biggest act of cowardice. Martha dropped the letter. It fluttered to the floor, landing on a pile of fine velvet from Lily's new concert costume. Sarah hadn't been entirely cold. She was simply a deeply broken, deeply selfish woman who, in her final act of betrayal, had made a contingency plan, an escape route for her children's absolute worst-case scenario. She had been too ashamed to save them herself, but she couldn't bear the thought of them truly suffering. Alina's letter finished with a blessing and an apology for not speaking up sooner. The wooden box filled with photos was Alina's way of delivering the whole truth, the darkness of Sarah's despair, alongside the vanished light of her happy childhood. Martha slowly picked up the letter. The years of searing, confused anger at Sarah's total indifference began to cool, replaced by a profound, agonizing pity. Sarah hadn't just abandoned them, she had abandoned herself. This discovery brought Martha a quiet, enduring peace. The judgment of the world had been on Sarah's selfishness, but Martha now understood the absolute, crippling despair behind it. And she realized the glorious truth: Sarah was wrong. Martha hadn't failed. She had succeeded beyond all measure. She had done what Sarah couldn't. She had taken the only desperate, faint request of her abandoned daughter, let them starve, and transformed it into a legacy of hope, love, and success. The years of quiet, necessary suffering were now fully redeemed. The revelation contained in Alina Jenkins's letter closed a gaping, painful wound in Martha's heart. The anger she had harbored for 5 years, fueled by the image of Sarah as a cold, indifferent monster, now softened into profound pity. Sarah hadn't just been cruel. She had been consumed by a psychological desperation so deep she believed only total flight could save her children from her own failings. Martha carefully tucked the letter and the photographs back into the wooden box. She didn't share the contents with the children. They needed to remember the woman who saved them, not the woman who failed. The new knowledge was for her alone, a quiet affirmation that her choice to fight was not just justified but necessary. The focus shifted entirely to the future. Lily's tour was set to begin in 3 months, and she was already recording her debut album, which was expected to be a massive success. The record company, having capitalized brilliantly on the family's uplifting story, ensured that Martha was always by Lily's side, acting as a beacon of authenticity. Noah's academic ambition paid off handsomely. He was accepted into the prestigious Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania with a full scholarship. It was a dream come true, and the family was overjoyed. His acceptance proved that the foundation Martha had built was strong enough to launch them into the highest levels of achievement. The night before Noah was scheduled to leave for Philadelphia, the family held a celebration in their new, bright, spacious dining room. They laughed and shared stories, reminiscing about the old days in the tiny house. "Remember when we had to share the oatmeal?" Ben, now 11, asked, making a face. "And how Grandma made 5 shirts out of one worn-out bedsheet?" Chloe added, now a budding fashion designer at 15. "We were poor, but we were never unhappy," Noah declared, raising a glass of sparkling cider. "Because we had Grandma." To Grandma Martha, the toughest, most loving person in the world? As the family cheered, Martha felt a wave of satisfaction that transcended any professional or financial success. She had given them more than money, she had given them unity, respect, and a history they could be proud of. However, the shadow of Sarah was not entirely banished. A few days before Noah left, he received a phone call. The number was blocked. "Hello," Noah answered, expecting a call from a school administrator. "Noah, is that really you?" The voice on the other end was hesitant, unrecognizable at first. Then the realization hit him like a physical blow. It was Sarah. Noah's heart hammered. He walked into the pantry, closing the door softly. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice cold and steady. He was no longer the scared 10-year-old boy. I saw Lily on the news. I saw you all." "I've been watching you," Sarah whispered. "I know how well you're doing. I made a terrible mistake, Noah, a huge mistake. I've changed. I need to come home. I need to see my children." "Home?" Noah scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping him. "This is Grandma's home. You gave up your right to this family 5 years ago when you chose your freedom over 6 scared children. Don't talk to me like that. I'm your mother. You don't understand the pressure I was under?" "We understand the pressure, Sarah," Noah countered, his voice rising in anger. "It was called raising your children. Grandma was 70 and facing eviction, and she didn't run. She sewed day and night. She saved us. We don't need a mother who only comes back when the struggle is over and the glory has begun." The line went silent. Noah waited, his finger hovering over the end call button. "Tell your sister," Sarah's voice was barely audible, laced with a familiar, selfish resentment. "Tell Lily that when she needs a real mother's advice to call me. I'm ready to help her manage her career." Noah took a deep breath. "Goodbye, Sarah." He hung up the phone. He didn't tell Martha about the call. He didn't need to burden her. The chapter with Sarah was finally and definitively closed. It was a victory won not on a stage, but in a quiet, dark pantry, a final act of protection for his grandmother. The phone call from Sarah was the last ripple of their tumultuous past. Noah kept the conversation to himself, recognizing it for what it was. A desperate final attempt by a selfish woman to insert herself into a narrative of success she had no hand in creating. His quiet strength in dismissing her solidified his role as the family's protector, allowing Martha to fully embrace her well-deserved rest and pride. The following year unfolded like a dream achieved through relentless effort. Noah thrived at Wharton, quickly showing an aptitude for finance. He used his breaks not just to visit, but to oversee the family's growing foundation, ensuring Lily's earnings were managed ethically and sustainably. Lily's debut album, a beautiful fusion of classical training and contemporary folk, was a critical and commercial smash hit. She sold out every venue on her first national tour. She never allowed her fame to change her. She remained grounded, humble, and fiercely devoted to her siblings and her grandmother. In every interview, she credited her success not to talent, but to Grandma Martha's love and sacrifice. She never failed to mention Mr. Harrison, who attended every major performance, beaming like a proud father. Martha ensured Mr. Harrison was generously compensated, not just for his mentorship, but for the profound gift of opportunity he had given the family. The true testament to their victory, however, was seen in the younger children. Chloe, having developed her artistic skills, was offered a prestigious internship with a major costume design house in New York City when she turned 17. Ben and Sam, excelling in school and on the soccer field, were disciplined, respectful young men who understood the value of hard work. And Grace, now 8, was a happy, secure, and bright little girl who knew no life other than the safe, loving one Martha had built for her. The family continued their tradition of holding regular Sunday dinners, often inviting Mr. Jenkins and Pastor Evelyn. These gatherings were celebrations of their journey, filled with laughter, good food, and shared memories of their lean years. One Sunday, Lily surprised the family. After dinner, she gathered everyone in the living room and asked them to close their eyes. When they opened them, she was holding a set of blueprints. "Grandma," Lily began, her voice filled with deep emotion, "you gave up everything for us. You never got to travel, you never got a true retirement, you only knew work and sacrifice." She pointed to the blueprints. "Noah and I have been working on this with the architect and the lawyers. I'm calling it the Peterson Family Home and Foundation. We're tearing down the old garage and building a 2-story addition. The addition wasn't just rooms. The first floor was a state-of-the-art community center dedicated to teaching vocational skills, sewing, tailoring, and small business management to single mothers and elderly guardians in Indianapolis, named the Martha Peterson Center for Resilience. "This is your legacy, Grandma," Lily said, tears tracing paths down her cheeks. "You taught us how to survive, how to fight, and how to create opportunity where there was none. This center will give other families the tools to do what you did for us." Martha was speechless. The love and respect radiating from her children was 100 times more valuable than any money or fame. She looked at the plans, seeing not the building, but the endless possibility it represented for others who were struggling just like they once had. "And the second floor?" Martha whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Noah stepped forward, smiling. "The second floor is your apartment, Grandma, private, luxurious, and with a beautiful sunroom overlooking the garden. You retire now. You will be the director and the inspiration, but you will no longer be the primary worker. We take care of you now." The sight of the entire family pooling their talents and resources to secure her final years brought Martha to her knees in gratitude. This was the true meaning of their victory. Not just survival, but the ability to give back and secure the future for the woman who had risked everything for them. The dedication of the Martha Peterson Center for Resilience took place on a bright Saturday afternoon, exactly 10 years after Sarah had abandoned her children. The timing felt symbolic, a decade that transformed utter despair into triumphant creation. The old garage was gone, replaced by a beautiful, light-filled structure that harmonized with the new family home. The center housed industrial sewing machines, computer labs for business training, and a warm, inviting communal kitchen. The event was attended by the entire community, along with local dignitaries. Pastor Evelyn led the blessing, and Mr. Walter Jenkins gave a heartfelt dedication speech, praising Martha for embodying the spirit of hope and tireless service. Lily, now a global music star, stood on the newly built stage looking out at the crowd. She wasn't dressed in a glamorous concert gown, but in a simple, elegant outfit Chloe had designed, subtly embroidered with a delicate needle and thread motif. She spoke not as a celebrity but as a grateful daughter. 10 years ago, Lily said, her voice clear and resonant, we had nothing but the clothes on our backs and a heart full of fear. The only thing that saved us was the fierce, unwavering love of one 70-year-old woman. My grandma Martha didn't just mend clothes, she mended lives. She didn't just sew seams. She stitched a family back together. She pointed to the center's motto, carved into a beautiful wooden plaque, "Love is the only thread that cannot be broken." This center, Lily continued, is for every person out there who feels they have no options. Grandma Martha proved that with faith and a working hand, you can create opportunity. This is her final and greatest act of stitching. As the crowd applauded, Martha, elegant and serene at 80, walked to the podium. She carried the heavy, old, repaired Singer sewing machine that had started it all. She placed it carefully in the lobby under a spotlight. "This machine," Martha said, touching the cold metal, "is proof that even the most broken things can be fixed and that old things can teach new lessons. I ask God's blessing on this center and on all the hearts that will find hope within its walls." Noah, who was about to graduate at the top of his class from Wharton, handed his grandmother the large, ceremonial scissors. With a flash, Martha cut the ribbon, officially opening the center. That night, alone in her beautiful new sunroom, Martha looked out over the quiet Indianapolis neighborhood. Her children were safe, successful, and good. The memory of Sarah was finally just a quiet footnote. Her legacy was secured not just in the money and the fame, but in the enduring, unbroken circle of love that bound them all together. The story was complete. The grandmother had won.